Good afternoon, everyone. This is John Daly, and I'm here today to talk about race, prejudice, and racism in the workplace. And what should never happen anywhere is unforgivable in the workplace. There are a lot of things here that I'm going to be explaining, and I hope that you will be able to grasp what I'm talking about. We're going to talk about religion in the workplace, politics, race, gender, homophobia, cultural differences, and stereotypes. Also, social exclusion, and we're going to understand how it impacts the workplace and what to do when you see or experience it. Religious intolerance is the bigger cause of prejudice than race. It's been proven that there is more intolerance of religion, different religions, than there is actually of race. And that's through the research that I have found, and it's something that we need to really be aware of. Religious prejudice seems to be the one prejudice that is talked about openly. People tend to talk about it openly and use slurs or bad language for different religions and so on. And lots of fun is made of, or jokes are made of, or stereotypical things are done. And that's something that it just is talked about openly, much more openly actually than race prejudice. The uneducated are the most likely to express prejudice. That is something that has really been proven, that people that are not educated and are not at all worldly, or I will say worldly, what I mean is educated in different cultures and so on and so forth, they're the most likely to express prejudice because they don't understand, they don't know what other races and what other religions are all about, what they are like, and why they practice what they practice. Education is the quickest way to dispel religious and all prejudice. If we just educate people, and I hope today this is part of what we're talking about, I hope that this will help you. It certainly has helped me putting together this PowerPoint. I've learned an awful lot through my research and development of this. Politics, the divide of the parties, our political parties, is an all-time high in the United States. Anyone can tell that. It's just an absolute shame that people are so divided as they are. And not only are they divided, they've always been divisions in political aspect, but now it's become much more pointed and so on and so forth. It's just so much more poignant that people are so set in their ways that they refuse to learn about the other side of the story. So the Democrats and the Republicans, and I'm not saying which is right or which is wrong, but they will not come together and try and learn from each other. They are at a absolute standstill where they just will not try and talk and come together and learn from each other. Politics can drag into all kinds of prejudiced feelings, such as religion, race, and heritage. We've seen that in the past 10, 15 years, really an awful lot. A lot of it went into when our President Obama was in office, how we had prejudice showing then from our former President Trump, saying that President Obama was not an American, and things like that. I'm not taking a side here. I'm just bringing up an example. So we need to be very careful in our political opinions. And I for one, I personally keep my political opinions very close to my chest. I don't talk about it that much with that many people, because I find that it doesn't do any good to talk. There are certain people that I will have conversations with, but not many people. Race. Now, this is really very, very interesting. African Americans. Not all people from Africa are Black. Are they African Americans? As a matter of fact, they are not considered African Americans. If you are from Africa proper, the continent of Africa, if you're from there and you are white, you are considered an Afrikaan, not an African. And they're not, if they were here in this country, a white person in this country could identify themselves as not as an African American, but as an American, if they were an expatriate of Africa. Black, not all Black people are from Africa. Do we refer to them as Black? We certainly can't refer to them as African American because they're not from Africa. There are a lot of people here from Haiti, from Jamaica, and other countries that have large Black populations, but not total Black populations. Same thing with South Africa. South Africa has a lot of white people there. And so not all Black people are from Africa. So we should be referring to Black people as Black people. Latinos, not all Latinos are brown. Some are light-skinned. So are they considered white? These are questions that you have to ask yourself and do the research on it. They're not considered white. They're still considered Latinos. And so that would be, even though they may be light-skinned, that does not make them white. That makes them, or Caucasian, I should say, white or Caucasian, either one, they're interchangeable. Asian, not all Asian people look alike and share the same cultural customs. As a matter of fact, their customs are very different from each other. The Chinese and the Japanese and the Koreans are, to name just a few, have very different customs and cultural customs. They, for instance, in Korea, the colors of yellow and white cannot be used together unless it is to signify death. So you would never send flowers, for instance, to someone that were in yellow and white unless it was for out of respect for someone that has passed. So just remember that. And you would not, if you were going to have a lot of Korean people at an event like a board meeting or some sort, You would not want to do the floral and yellow and white because that would mean death. Okay? Asian people are not referred to as Oriental. Oriental is a carpet. Oriental is not a people. It is very offensive to call people Oriental. It's just not done. You call them by Japanese, Chinese, Taiwanese, whatever they happen to be, Vietnamese, whatever they happen to be, wherever they happen to be from, that is how they are referred to. Okay? This is very interesting. Hispanics refers to individuals who are Spanish speaking or have a background in a Spanish speaking country, such as Spain or Portugal. Latino refers to those who are from or have a background in a Latin American country. These terms encompass cultural ethnicity, and identify and are rooted in shared cultures and not racial categories. Found that very interesting that a person that is from Mexico is not considered Hispanic. They are considered Latino, or Latinx is, I don't care for that term, but that's gender neutral, Latinx. And some people do prefer that, and that's good too. But remember that Hispanics are from Spanish speaking countries, but not Latin American countries. Gender. There's male, there's female, and there's transgender. Each go by different pronouns, and pronouns are used to are decided by each person for themselves. So you can have, for instance, a female that refers to herself as he or him, and a male that refers to themselves as she or her. Pronouns are decided by each person for themselves. So if someone has decided that that's the pronouns that they want used for themselves, we should, out of respect, treat them with that respect and use the pronouns that they prefer. That's something that you can see now is written often on business cards or on letters that are written or so on, when someone identifies themselves, they can identify which pronoun they prefer to have used for their when you speak with them. Cultural difference. Many ethnic groups as well as religious groups have differences in cultural habits and ritual celebrations. And we need to be aware of that. We need to be aware of what different religious groups consider good or not good or bad, but proper or improper for different times of the year. Be aware of different celebrations and customs, etc., like Ramadan or Christmas or Hanukkah or any of those holidays you want to be aware of, and you want to be aware of what their customs are. As our offices and business places become more diverse with people of different cultures and different backgrounds, we need to be aware of that. An example would be you would not invite a Muslim person to lunch during Ramadan. Ramadan is a holiday, if you will, that is celebrated for a month where no one eats. during Ramadan, you don't eat all day. You break the fast after sunset. And so you wouldn't invite a Muslim person to lunch during Ramadan. You would not serve pork meat or shellfish to Jewish or Muslim people unless you've asked if they eat it. Very often they do not eat pork meat or shellfish. And so you have to be careful of that. And you don't want to expect a person like a Hasidic Jew, Jewish person, or a real Orthodox Jew to work on a Saturday. That's their day of rest. And you just don't expect that for them to work. Sundays they would work, but on Saturdays they would not. Also, another thing that is interesting with Orthodox Jews, a man is not allowed to touch a woman that is an Orthodox Jew. I had this experience with dealing with a lady in New York that I could never understand. When I would meet with her to talk to her about doing business, and I would extend my hand to her, she would not extend her hand back. She would keep her hands to herself. And I finally asked someone else in the office why this was. And they told me that it was because she was an Orthodox Jew, and Orthodox Jewish women do not touch another man. Had I known that, I would have never extended my hand. But how are we supposed to know that unless we're told? And so people, if you have different customs or ways that you live by, rules that you live by, you want to share that with other people so they understand what your customs are. Homophobia is an irrational fear or aversion towards queer or gay people. LGBTQ plus is now refers to a lot of people. A gay person is considered a man that sexually prefers other men. A lesbian is a woman that sexually prefers other women. A bisexual is a man or a woman that is attracted to either male or female. Either one. A man may be attracted to both men and women. And the same with the women may be attracted to women as well as men. That's bisexual. Transgender, a person that does not identify with the sex they were assigned with at birth. So you'll have people that were born a girl, and she, at the time, and maybe not at the time of birth, but certainly as she grew up, did not feel as though she was a girl, and she felt like she was a man trapped in a girl's body. And that happens on both men and women. And it's not something that they choose, it's something that just happens to be the way it is for them. And so therefore you can't say, well, you choose to be a man or you choose to be a woman. It's not, and that's, by the way, it does not refer to being gay or lesbian. There, you can have a straight man, straight being heterosexual, a straight man that feels that he is a woman inside and will be, and if he so acts on it, he would become transgender. So it's not necessarily that they are looking for the same sex. That's the thing. Queer is any sexual or gender that is not heterosexual. So transgender or bisexual or lesbian or gay would be considered queer. And so, but you have to be careful with that term as well, because there are older people in the LGBTQ plus are offended by the word queer. So you have to remember that, and it's not a joke. So stereotypes. We've all heard this a million times. All Jewish people are rich. Well, we know that's certainly not the case. And all Black people can dance. No, that's not true. Not all Black people can dance. That's like saying all white people can't dance. All Asian people are good students. Not necessarily. Asian doesn't mean that you're a good student. It doesn't mean that you're great at math. Doesn't mean that you're great at anything in particular. It's just you happen to be Asian, and whatever you maybe you are a good student, maybe you're not. All gay men lisp. And that is not true necessarily. You find a lot of gay men that do not lisp and work in fields in the industry, television industry, and so on and so forth. Like Anderson Cooper on CNN is a gay man, and he certainly does not have a lisp. So you don't want to categorize anyone into any one of those groups. You don't want to say that people are a certain way because of a religion or the color of their skin or whatever, or their nationality. It's not fair, and it's not to be. And you can make mistakes, which we're going to talk about, make mistakes that people will not even realize they're making the mistake when you social exclusion, excluding people because of their race or religion. So if you see that there is a person that identifies with a different religion, such as a Jewish man will wear a yarmulke, maybe not all the time, but Orthodox Jews do wear a yarmulke and a hat at all times. And so excluding people because of their race or their religion is just not acceptable behavior. If you see somebody that's wearing that yarmulke, there's no reason that you as a Christian or you as a Muslim cannot get along with that person. That's like excluding someone if they have any differences from yourself at all. And that's not a good thing. So you don't want to have differences from yourself exclude other people into your life. You want to be careful about talking behind someone's back. You don't know who you're talking to and what their situation are. So gossiping about someone or something, you have to be very, very careful what you're saying. Because now, for instance, there are a lot of interracial marriages, interreligious marriages. You have to be careful. And you don't want to offend anyone. Understand how it impacts the workplace. What to do when you see it or experience it. Microaggressions, this is what I was talking about just a few moments ago, are microaggressions. Be careful what you say about anyone, because you can be offensive when you think you're being complimentary. As a example, oh, you're gay, so you can decorate the office because you have good taste. And that's saying that to a man. Now, you may think that's being really giving that person a compliment, but not necessarily, because not all gay people have good taste. And that is offensive. You have to be careful. Be careful how you speak to coworkers. Never talk down to anyone. You don't know who that person is, or what position that person holds, or what that person is like outside of work, or whatever. You do not ever talk down to anyone, and then you're safe. I know that I will see a janitor working very hard, cleaning an office or something in an office building, and I always thank them for keeping the place sparkling clean. And I just think that's a nice thing to do. That's not obviously not talking down to them. It's lifting them up, if anything else. Be careful how you speak to coworkers. Never talk down to anyone, as I said. When someone has told you what pronouns they would like used while talking to them, honor their request. I know I'm repeating that because I feel that it's so important now in 2021. Things are very different than they were in 2011. And they're going to continue to get more and more different for us that have been around for a while. So when someone has told you what pronouns they want, use those pronouns, period. Microaggressions, again, another microaggression is men should not talk over women. In a boardroom or something, when a woman is talking and she has the floor, that's when she has the floor. You don't want to step over her just because she's a woman. And women should not expect men to do certain jobs they don't want to do. Equality is equality. People should not play the race card ever. I don't know if you know what the race card is, but the race card is if you were to say something, for instance, well, you're just saying that to me because I'm gay, and you're saying that I should decorate the office. You're just saying that because I'm gay, or you're just saying that to me because I'm Black. You're talking down to me because I'm Black, or you think that all I can do is clean houses because I'm a Latin American. You just don't play that race card. It's not fair, it's not nice, it's not acceptable in any way, shape, or form. Never assume anything. There are many mixed marriages, be careful. And there's many mixed adoptions, so you have to be careful. So you may have seen Caucasians that have adopted Asian babies or black babies. So be careful how you talk about their parents. You don't know what they're going to go home and say. And you just want to be careful anyway. It's not that they're going to talk and tell on you, but if anything should happen, you want to be very careful. You just want to be very careful. And be aware. That is something that people tend to not be aware. I really believe that most people don't mean to be prejudiced or putting people down. I don't believe that they mean to be doing it as much as they're doing it out of just pure ignorance. What do you do when you witness prejudice? Put a stop to it at that moment, at that very, very moment. Don't let it go further. Call it out. If you call it out right then, people will get the message. The person, for instance, the person that will go back to that same sentence that I used before, you're gay so you can decorate the office because you have good taste. If somebody says that, just say, that's wrong. You have no right to say that to that person. It's not a correct thing to say. Call it out and report it. Report it to human resources or to your boss. And if you need to, and I think it's a good idea, if you find that you're in a position where this happens on a regular basis, you should write it out so you have a paper trail. And I mean, write it out to human resources or to your boss, and have a copy for yourself. Either email it and save the email, or have a copy of whatever you wrote. And so you always have a paper trail. Very important. Racism and prejudice is just not acceptable. It's not acceptable anywhere, but worse is in the workplace. The workplace is, and discrimination and prejudice. We are no longer trapped in our job. People used to feel trapped and feel that they couldn't say things and report things and report like a racist act or a prejudice act, because they felt that they would be disciplined for it. Now that can't happen. If it happens, you've got a suit that you can sue somebody for letting you go because you said a certain thing or whatever. There's rules to be followed everywhere. And check that out with the human resources department, even before you go to work for a company. It's good to find out what is their take on prejudice and racism. What is their take? What are their rules and regulations? Prejudice and discrimination bring everyone down in the workplace. Everyone that experiences it or is a part of it or sees it happening, they're brought down. And company morale goes sour. It's just not a good thing. It's a bad thing. And we should not allow it to happen. America is a melting pot. Remember your self-worth. Always remember that you are as good as anyone else. And it doesn't matter what race, what religion, what country you're from. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're a mixture of different ethnic people, biological parents are, one is Asian and one is Caucasian. It doesn't matter. Remember, your self-worth is all about what you are. And remember other self-worth. Just because someone is of a different religion or either religion or race than you are, that does not make them different. It doesn't change their feelings. You have to make sure that you're not hurting someone's feelings by saying things that you wouldn't say to just anybody. We or our ancestors were once the downtrodden. I know that I am Irish, 98% Irish, and my great grandparents were downtrodden when they came to the United States. And it wasn't right then, and it isn't right now. They're not any longer, obviously. Well, my great grandparents are obviously passed on, but the Irish people are not put down as like we were at one point. And treat all people the way you would like to be treated. It's that golden rule in life that just go to what's right in the world. It's just plain be nice to one another. And if you're nice to one another, you're going to find that people are going to be nice to you. So that's what I have for today on racism and in the workplace. I would love to know what you think about this. I hope you will hit the Survey Monkey and judge this, and not racism or prejudice, but judge it. We'd love to hear your feedback. We'd love to know what is interesting to you and what is not interesting to you. It's very important to us that we understand that we are delivering all of the right information to you and the correct information. So please use the Survey Monkey. And I don't see anyone on that has any calls, any questions, but if you do, you could certainly go into the chat box at any time and give me a question, or you can unmute yourself and give me a question. But I've enjoyed this conversation today. And mostly, I have to say, I've enjoyed all the research that I did. I learned an awful lot. And I think that one of the most important one that I learned was Hispanic refers to individuals who are Spanish speaking and have a background in a Spanish speaking country. Very different than Latinos. And I find that very interesting. I had no idea that that was the truth, was true. And Latino or Latina or Latinx refers to those who are from or have a background in Latin American country. Well, I once again thank you and wish you all the best. And with that, I will say thank you very much and goodbye.